invitation and I said, can we just come together and pray?
I would rather have a child lay hands on me and pray that I be healed than somebody chronically intoxicated wannabe prophets.
We are not looking for this cookie cut box kind of who God is and how people function. We're okay with the fluidity of different things. I can experience the Holy Spirit.
You guys have a proximity and a relationship of trust enough that the sister could pull your coattail and say, so you know that was some sexy stuff right there.
And beautiful and going places and doing great things, but also can be transparent. We help each other.
And that God didn't make us clones. I think that's the beginning of us talking about authentic preaching, is trying to understand who in the world am I?
History, the majority of those churches were founded by women.
For us as women, we are relational beings. You know, we are wired. You know, it's in our DNA. We cannot help ourselves. We're just wired for relationships. And what people fail to forget is that that's what church is about.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. We've been on a 2-week sabbatical, a break that we needed in taking care of ourselves in this time. And so we thank God for this. Dr. Brenda Wallace, we've not seen you in weeks. Come on, tell us, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think I had a little bit of a setback, my doctor said, and I talked to her tomorrow because I was trying to move too quickly once I had that first good night's sleep and no coughing. I thought I was well and completely healed, but that was not the case. So I'm slowing it down. I'm slowing it back down, but I can talk without coughing. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So to see you on this side.
Yes. I'm so grateful and thankful that the Lord saw fit to keep me here a little while longer, because there was a time in the hospital that I thought I was a goner.
Oh my.
I thought I was really dying. So I have come, as the old folks say, a mighty long way.
Oh wow. Dr. Bradford, how are you?
All is well here. I'm excited that Dr. Wallace is back. And Dr. Wallace, I don't know, I want you to just see the comments. Welcome back, Dr. Wallace. Hello, Dr. Wallace. Everybody is happy that you're here. I'm just saying everything is good here, but I am glad that you're back.
Bless you.
Love you.
Love you more.
Well, as we wait for also Dr. Sarita Wright to join us, I want to just do a shout out and thanks to the many of you who expressed condolences to me. I lost my brother, as we like to say, our last immediate family member. He passed on the 28th, and so many of you all just sent out so much love, and I'm so grateful for that. I've been able to travel home to Georgia and to make it back, and so I'm glad to be here today. Actually, it's my first day back. I've not been back to the sanctuary yet, and you know, whenever you lose somebody that you love, it's hard. You know, it pulls on. And some of you know, and some of you who are viewing us, you don't know, but this is a brother that back in 2006 that I was able to give a kidney to. And so he was very, very special to me. And so I'm coming out of the mourning period, but I'm glad to be back here. And Dr. Wallace, is so good to see your face. Dr. Bradford, is so good to be back here. And have what we call to have the gang back together again.
Gang's all here, right?
So, we have an awesome show as we come back on today, taking care of you. while taking care of me. We're blessed to have Dr. Carolyn McCrary. And let me just read a little bit about her. She is a Jarena Lee Associate Professor of Pastoral Theology, Care and Counseling at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta. Like we like to say, those of us who graduated from there, we say at the ITC. She is the coordinator of the Doctor of Theology and Pastoral Counseling, THD program, and a cohort leader in the Doctor of Ministry program in Pastoral Professionalism and Spiritual Care. She has traveled to over 30 countries, studied and taught in over 30 countries: Egypt, Sudan, USSR, Mexico, England, Italy, Cameroon, just to name a few of the places. But listen to this. Her areas of expertise include theory and practice of spiritual care and counseling for religious leaders and the psychological and theological impact of systems relative to resistance and self-care. Her teaching and research interests evolved the exploration of core values and intergenerational patterns in African American families, the psychological and theological impact of white supremacy and trauma of enslavement upon Black families in Africa and the diaspora. Do you all hear this? And the psychological and theological impact of patriarchal violence and economic disparity against I lost my place, my phone rang, I'm sorry, y'all, against girls and women of color, resulting in internalized shame. And so listen to this. In her early teaching career, she was an instructor at a Malcolm X Liberation University in Durham, North Carolina. Yes, ma'am. Some of her works include Interdependence as a Norm for Pastoral Counseling African Americans, The Wholeness of Women, Intimate Violence Against Black Women and Internalized Shame, Haiti, A Pilgrimage of Caring, Pastoral Care, and the Local Church. Y'all, we are blessed today to have with us the Reverend Dr. Carolyn McCrary, who is the proud mother of 3 adult children and 2 grandchildren. Dr. Carolyn McCrary, welcome, welcome, and welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Asante, sana. And I tell you what, Dr. Venice Burns, as they would say in Ghana, when I heard the sisters and the women say, they would put their hand to their chest and say, Medasi, Father. It was thank you very much. It was the same tones that I grew up with the older women, sisters and mama and grandmama and them saying, thank you, baby. Very much. So Medasi, Dr. Whitney. I'm floored, you all. I have to admit, when you read all that, I'm like, okay, stop. Don't say anymore. So I'm happy. I'm happy to be here with all of you all. I'm just meeting Dr. Chalice, and I'm excited to meet her and to be in her presence. And it appears that we've crossed paths at least once somewhere. I see and I know. And yes. Dr. Brenda Wallace, Lord have mercy. Thank God for you. You all, we don't have time to talk about how she came to see about me after my hospital stay. Oh, wow. And I couldn't even come see about you. Now you talking about a hurt. Couldn't even come see about you.
I know you sent me a lot of love. You sent me a lot of love, and I thank you for that.
I did, and I do. You are sister beloved in so many ways. Reverend Dr. Brenda Perry Wallace.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be. I'm just so glad to see you. I'm so glad you're alive. You just don't know. Oh, I was gonna be mad with you. Girl. So we'll have to talk about how mad I was gonna be with you for trying to leave me on the planet. Did you
Wow.
without you? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Burns, for inviting me. I'm so glad to be here. And I hope I can be, as my mentor, Dr. Thomas Jefferson Pugh, would always say, I hope I can be helpful to you all and to somebody listening. So I just can't say enough how honored I am. This is an honor for me. And I'm so proud of myself. I got here all by myself. My children tell me I'm technologically challenged. Uh-huh. Yes, Dr. Lisa help me out.
So Dr. McCrary, if we can begin, our title today is Taking Care of You While Taking Care of Me. We knew that you were coming to us from this pastoral care understanding. And I know that Dr. Bradford already has some questions that she's burning with to ask you on today. And Dr. Brenda Perry Wallace, who actually joined us in Timely Wisdom at the beginning because she was doing mental health self care for us. And so, what I really kind of envision today is that I have this feeling that you and Dr. Wallace are going to help us to understand even deeper in a way of how it is that we can continue in moving forward in taking care of others without negating ourselves. And so we'd love to kind of hear from you. But Dr. Bradford, I think you had a couple of questions that you wanted to come out the gate with for Dr. McCrary.
Okay. You, from what I understand, you are the mother of pastoral care. And Reverend Connie Jackson is saying here, hey, my precious professor, we bow to your ancestral wisdom.
Oh,
and I hear Eurocentric and Afrocentric pastoral care. Is there a difference, or is there such a thing as just Afrocentric pastoral care?
Now that's a good question. You should have asked me that question before so I could think about it. Is there such a thing? Well, actually, it is. I already called the name of my mentor, Dr. Thomas Jefferson Pugh. And there's also writings by Dr. Edward Wimberly talking about pastoral care in the Black church. And he's done a good bit of writing, and he'll tell you as a result of being in the ITC community, being with us a lot, experiencing that milieu of the ITC, which already is interdenominational theological center, wherein we have all these denominations with hundreds of years of history in the midst of white supremacy. One of the basic frames that one has to put around caring for people of African American descent is the frame. And the shorthand version of that frame nowadays is that we're living in two pandemics, not only COVID-19, but 1619.
Right.
And the 1619, four little numbers, God, that talk about centuries of colonization, enslavement, dehumanization, discrimination, segregation, Jim Crow, lynching, torture, suffering, unbelievable suffering. Talking about families being torn away from children and mamas from their daddies. Every time I hear that in the current immigrant conversation, every time I hear it, I feel the mamas seeing their babies being taken away, and or them being taken away from their mamas and daddies. So in our course, my course in pastoral care at ITC, the core course, we don't start with the usual Eurocentric definitions of pastoral care, though we include those. I mean, you can't do a lot without a Howard Kleinbell. They're giants in the field, and then in steps, of course, Emmanuel Lartey, multicultural, intercultural.
Right.
Emmanuel Lartey, Dr. Emmanuel Lartey teaches at Candler School of Theology, yes, and has written several books in living color. For those who might not be familiar with them, you should read Living Color. Intercultural pastoral counseling, post-colonializing God, deep. So in our course, we start with Ma'at as a way of saying, you all know what? We didn't just start taking care of each other here on these shores, which we did. We didn't just start taking care of each other on those horrible slave ships, which we did. We didn't just start taking care of ourselves in those dungeons that some people call castles on the west coast of Africa, Elmina, Cape Coast, etc. But we did. But it started way back when you look at Kemet, which some people call Egypt. And when you go back to that particular time, thousands of years ago, and we have the students to read, I asked them to look it up, and so they start reading the 42 principles of Ma'at. And when you start reading those 42 principles about, I did not pollute the water, I did not take from anybody, I did not use evil words against anybody, I did not, I did not 42. And most of the students will go, oh. And then they recognize this preceded the 10 Commandments. So the interdisciplinary studies at the Interdenominational Theological Center start coming together. Oh, so what I learned in Bible, historical critical methodology and redaction criticism and historical criticism, oh, I still need that here. Yes, you do. Because once you began to remember that, then you see that those 42 were condensed by the Israelites, the Hebrew people, down to 10. But you know, interestingly, we do that a lot in religious circles, don't we? We borrow and we take. But a lot of times, as scholars, we say, well, if you are going to use somebody's stuff, at least give them credit. So we endeavor to give credit to Kemet and North Africa, where we have come to learn, as has been documented by Ben Yakanan, by Baba Asa Hilliard, by Naim Akbar, by Mama Jeffries, documented that over the temples in Northern Africa, particularly Kemet, the mystery religions, over the door were the words, know thyself.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're coming to study about everything and the world, and the beginning mantra is know thyself. So in walk pastoral care for us, you can't really know much else or do much else or be much else to others if and as you do not know yourself. Dr. Howard Thurman would say, who are you? To whom do you belong? So the scholars that we're able to use now, thank God, Dr. Lee Butler, Dr. Trina Armstrong, Dr. Pamela Lightsey.
Oh yeah.
We have scholars who are writing about their own stories. And one of the primary books by Dr. Ed Wembley that is so helpful is called Recalling Our Own Stories, Spiritual Renewal for Religious Caregivers. So I don't want to kind of just go on and on, but to come back to your question, and any part of that you can help me, let me know, and I'll unpack some of it. But the Afrocentric part affirms that we as African descended people, I'm a bit biased because I think we're such a genius people. And that is confirmed by the fact that though they brought us how they brought us, look where we are now. Ooh. And a major reason for that is that we knew God then. We knew God during.
Absolutely.
And we know God now. And
Come on
with
now.
that helps us to give another kind of definition for everything, including family. So we will not be constricted by your definition of families of that wife and that husband and this biological child and the 2 dogs and the picket fence and the two cars garage. We will not be defined by family, because once they tore our families apart, when they actually took us from the shores of Africa. We have to be mindful that they took mostly what they considered to be young people and children. Eugenie Perkins helps us to know that they would not have gotten me. I would have been safe and sound. That they wanted human bodies that for years could be productive in their capitalistic system. So though these were children and young of age taken from Africa, most of them still had gone through rites of passage. So they had begun the process of knowing who they were. Helped to sustain them mightily. Helped to sustain us mightily. So we don't take it lightly when we say brother and sister and mama and them and dad and them. Come on, baby. Come on over to my house and eat. You want to stay? You can stay. Fictive kin, Nancy Boyd Franklin, informal adoptions. How else would we have made it? We knew that at the core of our existence and our resistance was staying together no matter what.
Thank you for that answer. Yes, it is very clear. Kind of want to touch on womanism, but I want to backdoor it into pastoral care, if that's okay.
Let's do that. Okay.
Okay. We are so women, Black women. We take everyone under our wings, and we fly with them and allow everything under our wing. And we're taking care of everybody, but we are failing to take care of ourselves. Everybody is under our wings. We are doing what we need to do to help them, But when it comes to us, we neglect ourselves. How do we create an atmosphere of care or self-care or caring for ourselves or even play? How can we create
Caring
an
for
atmosphere
ourselves.
for ourselves?
And what were the last words I missed? Or even
Or just create an atmosphere of care, self-care, or play.
that word. What's that last word? Or play?
Uh-huh.
Play. All right. Okay. I'm glad you said that. Okay. Thank you. Or play. Because you have to have time to play, don't you?
Yes.
And I think you said it. I wonder if we have not taken the time to examine some things, and one of them may be that play, that time of recreation, that time of recreation, that time of fun and laughter. It's not task oriented. It's about being. It's about tapping into a spirituality that just might jump and knock anywhere. When you get a group of Black women together who really kind of want to play with each other, the laughter can go off the chain. And we enjoy it so much. And maybe, Dr. Chalice, that's a large part of it. The tension between enjoying ourselves and play and not being task oriented, not helping, not doing, not being busy with, I deserve to rest. I deserve to pause. I deserve to not be logical, not be professional, not be on target, but just to be myself. We probably would do well. Dr. Bremen, I started saying we probably would do well to go outside and play hopscotch, but maybe that's taking it a little bit too far. Wow. Yeah. I don't.
Not really. Not when you got granddaughters.
Oh, that's it. That's it. So we enjoy it vicariously through them, and then maybe put a toe in. And we could do that one. We could do that one by put your big toe in, take your big toe out, and then shake it all about. Do the whole around. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can do that with them, even if we can't do the long jump hops and scotches. There is, I tell you what, and like we say, go to the womanist. I'm gonna go to the womanist through theology. Interesting enough, Dr. Burns and I were having a brief conversation just the other day in preparation for this time, and we got to that point of saying, well, how do you convince Black women not to take the weight of the world? How do you convince Black women not to be responsible? How do you convince Black women that let somebody else do it? And there's a lot of psychology wrapped up into that too, because sometimes we do get hung up. Well, they'll set us up. Well, nobody can do that like you, and then we'll just get hooked by it. And that one, when we get to the end, you all, because that was what I want to talk about, therapy. Don't y'all let us go for it, because I think leaders need to get therapy, because once you get therapy, you begin to see what your hooks are.
Yeah. Yes. Wow.
that keep you from taking care of yourself. You need to know what those hooks are. But in that conversation with Dr. Burns, we said, what? She asked me. And of course, my seminary training, which and I don't like that word training, take that back. My seminary resourcing and education, because I think training is for not human beings.
Oh,
Yes. So I flashed back to my course in theology with Dr. John Diamond. And I'm coming from picketing and protesting. And I'm wondering, okay, I'm at this seminary, but I have come here to find out what this theology is, because I've been studying before I left a little bit to go to France. Let me tell a little story, tell this little bit. It doesn't really, I got to remember to stay on track now. But I'm fascinated by French languages. I love them. Yeah. So I decided I'm going to major in French in college. And even in high school, people were going, you think you're going to major in what? French? And then going to college, French? Black people don't speak French. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, my French teacher, she was Black and she spoke French. That's Madame Brown. I loved her. Black people. So then I'm at Bennett College, Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm studying. I'm just loving this, taking French and Spanish. And then I say, but I'm not really getting it like I want to be. I want to be able to speak French like I speak English. I want to talk. So I say, I'm going to go and study in France. That's what I'm going to do. And so I started looking to go study in France. And somebody else came, several people said, well, why do you keep wanting to study French? This is 1967, you all. Black people do not speak French. And so I'm picking and protesting. I'm really, my hair, I'm already there. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the library and I'm going to look through the Dewey Decimal System. And I'm going to find some book by some Black person writing in French. I looked, and the name that I came upon was Cheikh Anta Diop. I said, wow, that's a real name there. Much to my amazement and astonishment, as I did more research, the most phenomenal writer in the world writing in French about pre-colonial Africa and how Africa was the mother of civilization. And talking about how they split people and countries and tribes, and you got this whole swath of countries in Africa that speak French. I'm blown away. There are Black people who speak French. And then I get to go study in France and I meet some of them. So that's a long, deep story, you all. I'm consequently back, year abroad, graduated Bennett, went up to Brown University. That within itself is a whole lifetime of books. But they fired all the teachers who were able to teach me French African literature, except one professor, Monsieur René Belance from Haiti. My world comes crashing in because I love books and love education. And plus now I'm reading books about negritude. I'm reading books by Senghor, Leopold Senghor and Bernard Dadier. Bernard Dadier wrote a poem called Je vous remercie, mon Dieu, de m'avoir créé noir. I thank you again, God, for creating me Black. Who is this person? I must know more. So as I study more of negritude, I find that there are people pouring water on the ground and venerating the ancestors and the dead folk and communing with the rocks and the rivers and the trees. Oh, this is paganism, says my European scholars. Very animistic they said something. I was like, oh, what is it good? Is it bad? I must. So when I consult with my Black folk, I'm like, what is this? Somebody said it's African theology. Let's just say for a while in my life, I fell into the Great Depression when that educational pursuit failed and they fired all the teachers and personal things happened. So I ended up at home one day and my mama said, well, what were you studying, Carolyn, before your world fell apart? I said, I was studying French African literature. She said, well, why don't you study that some more? I said, well, I came up on theology and they said African theology, and I didn't know what African theology was. My mama said, and Dr. Chalice, she read every AME piece of paper that came, every review. She had all prescriptions. My mother read. She said, well, they have one of those theological schools up there in Atlanta. Billy going up there Monday, so you go up there with him and y'all go find that school. So I'm at the Interdenominational Theological Center now, coming upon Dr. George Thomas and Dr. Edugu Toforiata. George Thomas changed his name, Dr. Thomas Jefferson Pugh, and I'm like, what is this place? These people know what I'm talking about. And as crazy and as depressed I am, there's a man here who's listening to me, paying attention to my feelings. And there are courses here that's telling me about theology. And to get back to our point now, Dr. Chalice, I'm sitting in a course in theology, Introduction to Philosophy and Theology by Dr. John Diamond, and I'm learning all about the incarnation. You know, there's about 15 different theories, the Greek Christology, all about incarnation and Christology. And I'm coming off the picking and protest line, and I'm halfway depressed too, and so forth. But I know I need to be doing something, but I don't feel worthy to do much of anything because I'm coming out of a marriage and I'm divorced, and oh my God, I'll never be nothing now. Be divorced. Oh God. Ooh. So Dr. Diamond talking about incarnation. So something made me say, well, oh, I am the incarnation. I am the incarnation. Whereupon Dr. Diamond reaches right hand out, points at me, Carolyn. Yes, you are the incarnation. But Carolyn, you are not the atonement.
My God.
Dr. Diamond.
Dr. Diamond. I have some Dr. Diamond phrases I'll never forget.
Say it, Dr.
One of the ones he taught me was, true worship is not until you prostrate yourself on the ground and pull off all your clothes. And then you can talk to God. Dr. Diamond.
Woo. Yes. Yes, Dr. Diamond. So for me, Dr. Chalice, just really learning and finding out the depth of incarnational theology and Christology and atonement, what a relief it was. I am not the atonement. I do not have to give my last full breath and measure of devotion. It's already been done. He said, oh, that might be helpful to Black women.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you for that.
That might be helpful. And indeed, we must look at our theology. Most of us have embedded theologies that we really don't examine carefully.
Well,
Explore that. Explore that.
Oh, interestingly enough, at the ITC, as I'm fully in my depression and suicidal state, mind you, I'm still telling God, okay, one more day. I give this thing one more day. So in this course with Dr. G. Murray Branch, Introduction to Old Testament, at that time, now they call it Hebrew Bible, he starts talking about a theology that at that time was called Deuteronomistic theology. Like, okay, big word. I know the book in the Bible called Deuteronomy. Say more. Boiled down to a low gravy, Deuteronomistic theology is righteous living brings reward by God. Unrighteous living brings damnation and punishment by God. Oh, so somewhere in my spiritual beingness, psyche, I brought all of this bad stuff on myself. And I deserve to die. I've done everything that I told God when I was a little girl that I would never do. I did. So my birth and childhood narrative was the perfect little girl. Not only the perfect little girl, but the perfect smart little girl. So when I found out that, oh, this is a theology, somebody made this up, and part of it's been canonized. You mean God may not be doing this to me? I may be doing this to myself? Whoa, now. Okay, Dr. Pugh, I think I'm ready to process the possibility that I might not kill myself. I may want to live because I didn't know what grace was or is because I was so perfect. I didn't need no grace. But when I needed it, wasn't available to me because I had countered the laws of what I thought was handed down by the divine. No, Carolyn. Liberation theology. God of the oppressed. God is on my side. God is even on my side when I'm not on my side. Out of my psychology, I put God somewhere else. And that's when the two became so vital for me, the theology and the psychology, because for me now you cannot unhook them.
And there is grace.
And Lord, there is grace. Thank God for grace.
And there is grace. We are not the
I
atonement, but
that's right. I won't go into any long stories about it, but one has to look at one's family too. Because as I was able to start looking at my family and the intergenerational dynamics in my family, I came to see that there was not a lot of grace for a little dark-skinned, bow-legged, tomboyish, African-looking colored girl in Macon, Georgia, born into a family where the mama's side had a lot of light, bright, nearly white people and had been through so much trauma that the socioeconomic system was oppressive. And I was so close involved with my mama and that whole family. And I will introduce, I won't go into it. You all kind of asked me a question, but which is why I have come to love womanist theology and womanist approaches to pastoral care and pastoral counseling. And I have to make one comment, Lord, Dr. Jacqueline Grant, having encountered her at Bennett College. And then God brought us back together again at the ITC. And coming to grips with some of her writings as I'm a young scholar at ITC. And what is this? What is white woman's Christ, black woman's Jesus? Boom. Oh, wow. Jesus is a black woman? What are you saying, Dr. Grant? Have you lost your mind? Womanist theology, re-imaging God. I'm also hearing the voice of Emily Town saying, as you look at womanist theology, maybe it's a methodology. So I could just say currently you all are wrestling with pastoral care, womanist approaches to pastoral care and counseling, womanist theology, intention with womanist theology as an approach, because as highlighted by Alice Walker in her definition of womanist, there are at least 3 dimensions. And just for the sake of a brief conversation now, we have to recognize that there are systems at play. And when you talk about womanist theology, it takes into serious consideration the system of white supremacy, which some people call racism. It takes seriously male supremacy, patriarchy. It takes seriously socioeconomic supremacy, classism. Now, the big footnote on that is I had all that in my one family. That's where pastoral care and pastoral counseling comes in, because it's real. Even down to the point, as Nancy Boyd Franklin helps us and articulates and documents, we knew it before she ever said colorism. But we know dark skin. We knew about the paper bag brown test. We knew what it was in a white supremacist system to not look white with white hair and white features. So when you talk about womanist theology, pastoral care, women, we have to put all of those frames minimally on the discussion, because Alice, as well as Dr. Grant, as well as Emily, as well as Katie Cannon, minimally, they're going to look at how those systems impact upon one long colored, poor black woman. And while you're formulating that question, I do want to say, because now those were the 3 foundational ones, but we have to recognize now that heterosexism is another system of oppression. You got to do it this way. You got to do it with this person. Otherwise, you are hell bound. Because see, we know God and we know who God, we all up in God's God and we be God.
Mm.
And then we have ableism, because if you are okay and you can run and walk and jump with the rest of it, but if you're wheelchair bound,
Mm.
hmm, you're not really, or how worthy of you of God, or how divine are you if you are not physically like everybody else.
Mm.
So womanist approaches and womanist theology opens it up to examine all these systems of oppression. And then we as women of color, and when I say women of color, then we're talking about African American women. We're talking about African sisters on the continent. We're talking about African women in the diaspora. And then we go to Brazil, and there we are. And in the Caribbean, there we are. In Cuba, in Haiti, in North America, South America. In fact, we are pretty much everywhere. And then there are the women of color who are not necessarily, well, Africa was, because I told you, check Auntie Diop told us that was the cradle of civilization. So everybody's actually African. Oh, some people are just more removed from their Africanism and they forgot their mama's home training. Yes, ma'am, Dr. Challenge.
I'm stunned. Okay. Oh wow. I know we're talking about pastoral care, but we have a lot of viewers that may not necessarily know what pastoral care is. And we're talking about taking care of you while I'm taking care of myself, but what is pastoral care?
And you have about 6 minutes to answer, Dr. McCrary.
Okay.
Before our time is up.
Pastoral care.
That's a bullet.
Yeah. Pastoral care. Communal, compassionate, listening, being empathic, being genuine, being concrete. And all of this is conscious in pastoral care, is inherently embedded with psychology along with theology. So we're not talking about unconscious caring. We're talking about, I have this in the top 10% of my psyche, quote unquote, and I am serious about my care for you. I am genuine in my listening to you. I am determined to be concrete and authentic. I know that I am sustaining and guiding, reconciling, healing. And we have learned in pastoral care that healing does not necessarily mean they come out the hospital. Mm-hmm. We know that there are some who are healed in dying. Mm-hmm. Carol Watkins Ali tells us that liberation and survival, there is empowerment in pastoral care. There is nurturing in pastoral care. So when you put many of these functions, sustaining, guiding, healing, reconciling, empowering, nurturing, when you put those functions together with a conscious intention to be with you, therein separates us from social workers who are good, thank God, but we didn't come to do pretty much or nothing for you. We come Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we come to walk with you in your valley of the shadow of death. And even
We have a
when you
question
do
from the
fear, we still be with you. And even when you say I ain't scared, we still be with you.
Dr. McCrary.
We have a question from the viewer. So they're asking, so pastoral care is sincere concern from the pastor, or in parentheses clergy, toward the people?
I'm glad that question, because thank you so much. No, that is very important. Pastoral care is not from just the clergy. It can be from the clergy person, but pastoral care actually is not primarily from the clergy person, which is also a distinction in terms of the African-centered pastoral care from the Eurocentric pastoral care, because the pastoral care is intentionally a communal endeavor. Anybody can do pastoral care. Pastoral coming from the word poimen, or shepherding. So we can all be shepherds, and by and large, the shepherds were women at a lot of times, in a lot of places, in a lot of histories. So it's caring that is intentionally compassionate. It's leader. It's find the water. It's go to the water. It's be with the person at the water. It's be with the person as they drink. It's lying down by the cool streams. It's being where the person is. And it can be done at any place, at any time. Pastoral care can take place in 2 seconds or 2 minutes or 2 hours. Because in my opinion, at the core of pastoral care is kairos. And that means that is God's time. And you never know when and how God leads you to somebody to listen to them. Another important dimension for all of us, and for women especially too, in pastoral care, what you come to see is, no, I can't fix you. I don't have the magic scripture. I don't have the words. I can't solve this. I can't make your hurt go away. I can't take your pain. But you know what? I can sit here with you.
Be with you.
Dr. McCrary, it was one that I heard to say that one of the things of pastoral care, and I don't remember the author of this, but it's to say is to help people not suffer for the wrong reason.
Because when you talk too much, inevitably, you do like those friends of Job. They did real well as long as they were quiet and didn't say anything. They were good friends. They did wonderful pastoral care. But when they start opening their mouths and coming out with their theology, Deuteronomy, by the way, coming out with their theologies about this, you got to be, so you had to do something. What did you do? Confess. A lot of times we can put more on people and have and compound their suffering, because we're speaking out of our own needs to whatever we coming and bringing. And Dr. Brenda tell you, you have to learn to leave that. You have to bracket that. Whatever your need is, to focus on other people's needs. Exactly. But Dr. Chalice, you got to remember, you got to take care of your needs first, or else you won't be able to help people take care of them. Or Dr. Vanessa, then that's when you compound people's suffering, because you're actually bringing your stuff into their space.
Wow.
And you don't know their story.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. McCrary, for being with us on today. I hope you all were blessed by this from Dr. McCrary, her Afrocentric approach, her history, and giving us an understanding of taking care of you while taking care of me, but understanding you while understanding me. Thank you so much, Dr. McCrary. On next week, be sure to join us. We'll have the Dean of Phillips School of Theology, Paul Brown, will be with us to talk to us about education. Thank you, and God bless. Next Tuesday.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
God bless you. Don't forget to